Hey, what's up guys? I'm Funky Monki, legend player and off-meta deck builder, and nerfs are right around the corner. So in this video, we're going to be talking about our predictions as to what cards are going to be nerfed. Now, there's no doubt in anybody's mind that there's a lot of potent classes out there that are just really extremely frustrating to play against, and it's just a matter of time before those classes get nerfed. I believe that Blizzard has been waiting to nerf these classes or particular cards until Worlds is over with. For one, because they don't want to undo just months of preparation for these pro players, and for two, even if these players do get to use some of these old unnerfed cards, that'll take away from some of the hype from the tournament because people are looking forward so much to these nerfs. So now that Worlds is over with, and by the way, congratulations to Glory for winning, it's pretty imminent that the nerfs are right around the corner, so let's talk about which ones I believe are going to be nerfed, and let's hop into it. Now let's start off with everyone's favorite class, Demon Hunter. Now it's pretty obvious that Demon Hunter is going to be nerfed because they have three of the top decks in the meta right now. The three decks that they have available to them are going to be the Soul Demon Hunter, the Aggro Demon Hunter, and the Lifesteal OTK Demon Hunter. And these three decks make up about 20% of all decks in Legend. Just by one class. That is absolutely insane. So one card that is common among all three of these decks is going to be none other than Skull of Gul'dan. This card has been in every single Demon Hunter deck since the dawn of time, and it will forever be in every single Demon Hunter deck forever until it's nerfed. It is just too good of a card, especially if you compare it to other forms of card draw, like, I don't know, Sprint or Nourish or anything else. You have to sacrifice some tempo in order to draw in any other class, but with Skull of Gul'dan, you're actually gaining tempo because you're spending 6 mana, but you get 9 mana worth of discounts. So all in all, you come out ahead and you draw. So my predicted nerf for Skull of Gul'dan is going to be a 6 mana draw 3, discount every card by 2 instead of by 3. So this way it's kind of on par with other draw engines in that you're not really cheating more mana than you started with, because now all of a sudden you spend 6, but then you discount 6. Skull of Gul'dan has also been increasingly oppressive since people started running Polkelt in every single run of their Demon Hunter decks. And they pretty much only run Polkelt because Skull is so powerful. In Aggro Demon Hunter, they use Polkelt into Skull, so that way they can get their Ultraviolet for 1 mana and then a bunch of 3 mana cost cards for 0 mana, so they can just chain an Ultraviolet for just 1 billion damage in a row. But with the potential nerf change of Skull of Gul'dan, you're moving the discount from 3 to 2 on every card, now they can't quite as easily chain together a bunch of those 0 cost cards because the top of the cards after Ultras will cost 1 instead of 0. Skull of Gul'dan also hits an OTK Demon Hunter because they can't cycle through their deck quite as quickly. So it does slow down that combo quite a bit. I remember quite a few games I was dead by turn 7 or 8 against this OTK Demon Hunter, and there was nothing I could do. And in Soul Demon Hunter, it just makes it so that way they can't discount into their Lapidaries as easily, their Il'gynoth, so that way they can't do just a 30 damage combo from their hand. And again, there's just nothing you can do about that kind of burst damage. So the second card in Demon Hunter that I believe is going to be nerfed is Blade Dance. This card is absolutely insane for what it does. For 2 mana, it removes 3 big dudes. Now, keep in mind, the class identity for Demon Hunter is to not be able to remove big dudes, but they get to do this for 2 mana. It's really not that hard for Demon Hunter to get just a boatload of attack and then utilize this for 2 mana. So I believe the nerf is going to make it so that way Blade Dance costs at least 3 mana, maybe even 4. I don't know if any of you old school players out there remember Blade Flurry, but Blade Flurry was actually moved to 4 mana for this exact same reason, and Blade Flurry even destroys your weapon. If you move Blade Dance up to at least 3 or 4 mana, especially with the predicted Skull of Gul'dan nerf, all of a sudden, if you draw it from Skull, it's not going to be free. So you have to kind of weigh that risk versus reward on if you can actually Skull this turn, because you might not be able to remove your opponent's minions if you do that. And my third and final nerf to Demon Hunter prediction is going to be by Stilt Stepper. We all know that Aggro Demon Hunter is kind of absurd and how much damage it can do so fast, and I believe the Skull of Gul'dan nerf will hit the class pretty hard, but one more nerf is going to be to Stilt Stepper. I believe it should be moved as a 3 mana 4/1 gain 4 attack to a 3 mana 3/1 gain 3 attack. Now it's just a little nerf, but it might be able to save you at least 2 damage, 1 right away from the attack it gives, and then if you want to trade into it or if it connects to your face, that's going to save you 2 damage. And against an aggro demon hunter, I'm sure we've all been there where we were at like 1 or 2 life and we're about to stabilize, but then they just killed us. Yeah, the biggest nerf to aggro demon hunter I think will be that Skull of Gul'dan nerf, but this Stilt Stepper nerf should go ahead and lower the win percentage rate of that deck by maybe like a 0.5% or so. So that way it's a little bit more tolerable. And in my opinion, you can't really nerf some of these neutral cards in aggro demon hunter like Wriggling Horror, Voracious Reader, Intrepid Initiate, or Blazing Battle Mage, or anything like that, because then you're nerfing the potential aggro for other classes like maybe Shaman or even Paladin, and some of those classes rely on some of these, you know, powerful neutral aggro minions in order to be viable. Now moving on to the second class for my predictions is going to be Warrior. I think Warrior is also one of the most powerful decks out there, partly because they're just a strong deck, but also partly because they counter Demon Hunter, which is also very popular. But one card that I believe is just very OP is going to be Sword Eater. This card is just packed with stats and value. So for 1 mana, you're getting a 2/5 minion and a Fiery War Axe. So my predicted nerf to this guy is going to be moving his stats to a 2/4 minion instead of a 2/5 minion, keeping the stats on the Fiery War Axe. I don't believe you can really touch the stats on the Fiery War Axe because then it's too similar to one of the classic cards, the Arathi Weaponsmith. So that 1 health nerf might not make a huge difference, but it does allow aggro decks to go ahead and maybe get through that taunt a little bit easier to start pushing face damage and burn down the warrior before they can do some of their busted late game stuff like ETC combos or Rattlegores or whatever. And then speaking of bursting down a warrior, that leads us to our second predicted nerf, and I believe that's going to be Risky Skipper or Armorsmith or one of those combo pieces, because the amount of armor gain they can gain from that combo is just absolutely unreal. Like, who needs Reno Jackson in standard when you have this combo available? I think the most logical step is going to be nerfing the Risky Skipper, either from a 1/3 minion to a 1/2, or just by taking the pirate tag off of it. If you nerf it to a 1/2, that means that you can only get 2 procs off of your Armorsmith and Bloodsworn Mercenary combo, and they can't go like Armorsmith Bloodsworn plus Bloodsworn. They can only do that once. And currently as a 1/3 minion, if they just do the Armorsmith plus Bloodsworn Mercenary just once, then the Skipper is still left up and it still threatens for them to get another proc off the Armorsmith and Skipper. Whereas as a 1/2, it's just going to kill yourself, they gain their armor, bada boom, bada bang, it's done, and now you can keep going face to try and chip down that armor. The other suggested nerf, which they're probably not going to do, is going to be removing the pirate tag. And this is simply because it's just too easy to get their Skipper plus Armorsmith plus Bloodsworn Mercenary combo. So they hook up their Ankar, all they really need is a Bloodsworn in hand and an Armorsmith, and all of a sudden they got their combo. They can go ahead and gain like 20 armor on turn 6. I've heard a few mentions of people thinking that they're going to nerf the Bloodsworn Mercenary. I don't think that that would be a good idea because that would completely take off the ETC combo and make it not viable. I actually do like the ETC combo. I think it takes a lot of skill to get there, and I think it takes a lot of skill to counter it and play against it. As long as you have a silence for the Rattlegore, basically you just don't play any minions and they just fatigue themselves. So it's definitely counterable, but the main problem with that deck is just the sheer amount of armor that they can gain. So aggro decks just can't even burn them down by the time that they get to their combo. So as long as you just kind of nerf that Skipper or Armorsmith or that big armor gain turn, I think that class will be very manageable. Now with Warrior being nerfed and with Demon Hunter being nerfed, one class that will just surge above all of them is going to be a Hunter, particularly a Highlander Hunter. So if you nerf one thing, you're going to have to nerf another thing, you're going to have to nerf another thing. It's kind of a big chain reaction here, but I do believe that we will have to hit Highlander Hunter. It's just been too consistent, too powerful for too long. And one of the ways I believe we can do this is by nerfing Dwarven Sharpshooter. Currently it's a 1/3 minion. I think that it would be okay to nerf it down to a 1/2 minion. It's still got an insane powerful effect, but now all of a sudden it's a little bit easier to kill in the early game, so that way Highlander Hunter can't snowball quite as fast. I'm sure we've all been there where we're playing against a Highlander Hunter, they drop the Sharpshooter on one, and you're like, oh great, here we go, guess I lose. Because that start is just so powerful to come back from. They can just push you off the board and keep that board dominance pretty much the entire game. So that way they have an empty board on a Dragonbane, they're ahead by the time they get to the Brand turn, and it just feels like you're just always falling from behind ever since turn 1. I've heard some mentions of people wanting to nerf like a Dragonbane or Bran, but honestly, I think the problem all starts on turn 1, because with that sharpshooter, if they start pushing off the board by turn 1, kind of like what I mentioned, it just makes it so easy to play that Dragonbane on like 4 or 6, makes it so easy to play that Brain on 7. But if you can fight for the board starting on turn 1, then all of a sudden your opponent might not be ahead enough to play that Dragonbane, or might not be ahead enough to play that Bran and go face. And speaking of a chain reaction of nerfs to the meta, if Demon Hunter gets nerfed, and Warrior gets nerfed, well then Evolve Shaman is gonna be bonkers. So we do have to touch on that. Now looking at Shaman, there's not really many things you can nerf. Like, do you nerf the Lightning Bloom? That'd be pretty tough. Do you nerf Cage Match Custodian? Possibly, but that also enables other archetypes. I think one card that Blizzard is gonna hit is the Bogspine Knuckles. I mean, this is the card that even makes Evolve Shaman a thing, and this is what makes it pretty oppressive and just pretty hopeless if you're playing against it, really. So one way that I think that they're gonna nerf this card is by making it into a 5-mana 3/2 weapon instead of a 5-mana 4/2 weapon. If you nerf the mana cost on this, honestly, I think that one turn later that you'll play the Bogspine Knuckles just slows the class down way too much, to the point where it might not even be viable. Like, that 1 mana nerf would be huge. But at a 3/2 weapon, it still does hit quite a few things in the deck. It makes it so that way you can't play a Dread Corsair for free alongside the Bogspine Knuckles. You might have to wait a turn in order to do that. And if you're waiting a turn to play your Dread Corsair, then you're also waiting a turn to play like a Sea Giant, or maybe even like a Mogu Flesh Shaper, and it gets those guys just that 1 mana more expensive. Nerfing the attack on Bogspine Knuckles also makes it so that way they can't make clean trades before they get evolves. Now all of a sudden they might have some pretty awkward trades, and they might not be able to remove your minions before they evolve, so that way you at least still have some minions on the board to contest their big evolve turn. Thank you so much for watching, and now I've got a question for you guys. What cards do you think will be nerfed coming up soon? Let me know down below in the comment section. And if you enjoyed the video, let me know that you liked it by leaving a like down below. And this channel is dedicated to everything deck building and off meta, so if you like that, then consider subscribing as well, so you never have to miss one of my fresh off meta decks. And if you love off meta content, then check out this video where I recently reached legend with this Death Battle Shuffle Rogue deck with a 70% win rate. I'll see you in the next video.